name is Liz Partsch,
And I am Paul Rowley.
and welcome to Farm and Dairy's Weekly Rundown.
We will be giving you, as we always do, dutifully every week, another rundown of the news from the last week. Strap in, because it's been...
Yeah, strap in, guys. It's we got an issue for you, and
Yeah.
it's an issue.
Yeah.
A big
With
issue.
many issues contained
Yes,
within.
exactly. Yes.
So, yeah.
I'll kick us off, Paul.
Please, yes.
So calls for a moratorium in Southeast Ohio on the permitting of injection wells are getting louder.
Ah.
As water utilities and local government officials in Washington County join in to protect water supplies from being contaminated from fracking, rather known as brine wastewater. So for those of you who may have not been following, this is an ongoing issue that I've been covering for quite some time. That's been happening in Marietta, specifically in Washington County. And also a refresher, I guess, maybe for some of you too, is that brine wastewater, if you don't know, is a byproduct of unconventional oil and gas drilling that is stored in Class 1 and Class 2 injection wells. It's stored in the ground. So yeah, in recent years, multiple injection wells in Southeast Ohio have failed and have been kind of shut down by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. That's the agency that regulates Class 2 wells due to this threat of brine migration to local water supplies. Local well owners in Marietta and Athens, Ohio, have also been seeing brine waste in their wells that have migrated from these injection wells.
Oh, that's not good.
Yes. So this is the second time the Marietta City Council actually has called for a 3-year moratorium on Class 1 and Class 2 injection wells. And now 9 other independent water boards have joined in on this fight most recently. They all signed a letter addressed to the Ohio Governor Mike DeWine in the Ohio General Assembly on March 4th at a press conference that I attended. This letter was also hand-delivered to the Ohio State House the following day.
Wow.
So yeah, at the press conference, multiple people talked, and one of them being Bob Allen, who's a treasurer and trustee of Little Hawking Water Association. And he said that he already has a great deal of experience dealing with contamination, unfortunately, and really doesn't want to deal with more, obviously.
No.
He wants to deal with water contamination, especially. Allen said his community is actually the epicenter of forever chemicals, something which you know much about.
Really?
And
Wow.
for you people who don't know what forever chemicals, where have you been? But just a little refresher, they're basically toxic chemicals that live in the environment forever and cause just a plethora of environmental and public health issues. So yeah, Allen's community, he's when he says he's the epicenter of forever chemicals, he's referring to the Chemours DuPont Washington Works plant, which you might know from the movie Dark Waters.
Yeah. With Mark Ruffalo.
Yes.
And Hathaway.
Yes, literally. And yeah, this water is just across the Ohio River from them.
Yeah.
The plant has been leaking forever chemicals into the river for decades and still doing it.
Yeah.
And is one of the first known polluters to really do so, bringing this like kind of public health crisis into the spotlight. So this has led the water utility needing to replace its filters 4 times a year. And this cost is $120,000 every time that they replace this filter. Now, I think they are getting some assistance to cover this cost, is what I heard at the meeting, but that's still like a lot of money that the water...
Dios mío, my goodness.
And this is just one community. Assumingly, there's so many other communities around that area that are having to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
But according to Allen, the DuPont site sits on one side of the Little Hawkins water field, and these injection wells that we're talking about sit on the other side, up close to a mile from the Little Hawkins water field. So they're basically kind of surrounded by these potential pollutants. So Allen said that if brine waste were to get into the water, this would entail connecting the water system to a whole new aquifer, a cost estimated to be about $50 million.
Whoa.
So that's something that a small utility company, they do service about 10,000 people, so it's not that small.
Right.
But like, it's a utility company that they can't pay this. They can't pay $50 million, and their customers surely can't do that. So it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
So to read more about this important and pressing issue, which I go into more detail about, you can visit farmanddairy.com.
My goodness.
Yes.
And can I ask, was this because were there protesters at this, or is this another story that you were covering?
Yeah, so there was a press conference with just like all the water utility and government officials in the city of Marietta, like downtown Marietta, March 4th, and then March 5th, more of the environmental groups that were at that meeting. They all traveled to the Columbus, to the State House, where they had kind of a protest. They protested, Brian Chavez, who is, to find out who that is, you can read the story. I'm not going to get into detail now.
Yeah, that's your plug.
You have to read you have to read the story. But yeah, so there was like a protest involved the following day. So
wow, interesting.
It was,
okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that sounds like definitely something we gotta check out here, guys. Okay.
Yes.
I am going to bring all of our listeners right now to actually the auction section of the paper. I probably don't have to tell you that farmers are really great at finding solutions for very common and not so common problems that are often run into on the farm. This has actually led the Pennsylvania Center for Dairy Excellence to host the first ever farmer-made ingenuity contest, where dairy farmers were encouraged to submit their inventive solutions for things, solving problems that may be hiding in plain sight, and many farmers may benefit in knowing and solving the same problems that they may be experiencing. So after collecting all of these submissions that were submitted to this contest, individuals across the dairy industry, I guess in Pennsylvania, voted for their favorite ideas, and there were more than 500 votes. 3 dairy producers, that was 3, the number 3, were selected as the winners of the contest and will be receiving a cash prize. Wonderful. I will tell you in brief detail about the winners. So, in first place, we have a calf hutch accessory to keep calves warm in the winter. And this is by Mary Creek of Palmyra Farm in Hagerstown, Maryland. So that's cool. We don't talk about Maryland on the pod very much. Among its benefits for this accessory, it also made, it helped the challenged calves. And challenged, I think, is a word that's like, they're like, I don't know, after their birth, they had some sort of challenges. It helped keep them more comfortable and healthier in like the cold winter weather. I remember reading the article that there's like ventilation as a part of this. It sounded sort of like if a bassinet was also a tent, kind of, that is you sort of pop it over the calf when they're in these like kind of important early days, after they're born. And it keeps them, in fact, warm earlier in their lives and promotes healthy growth so they can use more of their rations for growth and less for maintaining body heat. So that's very useful. In second place, we have a silage bucket and defacer built into one by Donnie Partsch of Merrimart Farms in Loysville. I think I said that right. Pennsylvania. So this is 2 pieces of equipment that have been melded into one ultimate utility. It has made both jobs of defacing the silage and loading the feeder wagon easier and more efficient. So very, very cool. And obviously much more to read about that. In third place, you have a homemade bale opener. And this comes from by way of Susan Spadaro of Love Haven Farm in Scottsdale, Pennsylvania. This is a simple bale opener that makes cutting baler twine quick and easy. And there's much more to read about that as well. So to read more about the designs, including when the center will once again open the contest for all of you genius farmers out there, check out the cover of the auction section in the paper this week. Over to you, Liz.
I really feel like farmers would be the group of people to survive the apocalypse if it were to happen.
For real.
Because like you said, they're inventive. They create all these solutions to problems.
That's so true.
But then also if the apocalypse happens, our food system's going to crumble. Who is better equipped to grow food than obviously a farmer?
Right. Herschel, shout out to Herschel on The Walking Dead.
Exactly. He kept
he
those
for a
people
while.
alive until you have to watch the show.
You have to watch the show.
To find out.
Right.
But yeah, so
life didn't change for him very much at all.
I actually think. Don't you think that maybe if that group didn't come to him on the show,
he'd be fine.
He
probably
would have lived forever. Yeah. Probably was that group's fault.
Rick.
Rick. Yeah, man. Wow, what a show. Anyway, but yeah, I just had to plug that in because that was my thought.
Mm-hmm.
So
right. Yeah.
Anyways, back to some more some concerning news because that's apparently all I have for our readers today. Grain farmers or crop farmers are facing an urgent crisis and it may be too late to solve.
Oh no, I hate the sound of that.
For some of them, according to the American Farm Bureau Federation at a press briefing on March 9th. So today, actually, the United States' war on Iran is causing how do you say Iran or Iran? People.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard it both ways. I've heard it said both ways. I think
Iran. I think I
I
usually
like
say
Iran.
Iran. Yeah. Anyways, the United States' war on Iran is causing global supply chain disruptions that are raising the cost of fertilizer at a time when soybean, wheat, corn, and cotton farmers are preparing for spring planting and depend on this fertilizer. So this disruption is due to Iran halting shipments through the Strait of Hormuz, which imports a huge chunk of global fuel and fertilizer supply. Already, grain farmers were struggling, as we much know, due to the high cost farm economy they're already operating in. But now farmers are even deeper of a crisis, as many put off buying fertilizer due to these high costs. And now these prices are even higher. One South Dakota farmer's bill was raised by $20,000 due to the global supply shortage. Yeah, that was said at the press briefing. So yeah, the timing is also crucial as farmers already are treating their fields for spring planting, and some farmers may even be past this window of needing this fertilizer, according to AFBF officials. Good Lord. Yeah, because I mean, even if shipments were to commence, it's still going to take so many days to be able to get these shipments from where they are now, right?
Right.
So the agency actually wrote a letter to President Donald Trump on March 9th, kind of urging him to take several actions to really address this critical situation.
Yeah.
So to read more about that, and also much more about farmers' thoughts on this whole just crisis, you can go online to read the story or find a print paper. So
Right.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I actually some time ago, I was in Streetsboro, Ohio, getting gas, as one does when passing through Streetsboro, and I saw a farm and dairy in the wild, like not anywhere.
I love that.
I know, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it was like, oh my god!
I know. I get excited too. Like I went to Janoski's Farm Market. Shout out to them. And they have it there. And I was like, oh my god,
it's so
farm
exciting.
and dairy, it's wild. Yeah, it's cool.
Well, that's great. I have, wow. So how do you follow up the crisis happening there with this? So let's see. Some of you may recall reading in the pages of Farm and Dairy the story of Ruth Miller and the Miller family at Atwood Lake last summer, which I wrote quite a bit about. This is an update to that story. For those of you who are not in the know, or maybe this is new information, an Amish woman who authorities say killed her 4-year-old son last year at Atwood Lake while in the grip of a severe mental health crisis was found not guilty by reason of insanity by a Tuscarawas county judge on March 3rd, so last week. Ruth Miller, who is 40, of Millersburg, Ohio, was acquitted on charges including aggravated murder, and felonious assault in the death of her son, Vincent Miller. He was 4 years old. Oof. Medical experts concluded that she was suffering from what they described as mental illness manifesting as spiritual delusion on August 23rd when she threw the 4-year-old boy off a dock where the family had been mooring a pontoon boat, leaving him to drown. And they said specifically in the document that came out of the court, that the words are failing me right now, but after she was acquitted, that she had a mental disease is the way that they described it. She also faced charges of child endangering and 3 counts of domestic violence related to her teenage children, who she also later forced into the lake that day. They survived. The ruling was issued by Judge Michael J. Ernest of the Tuscarawas County Court of Common Pleas following a bench trial in which Miller waived her right to a jury. She remains currently in the Tuscarawas County Jail until the court decides the appropriate treatment plan at a hearing on May 13th. I almost said 13th, kind of like how Maura on The Traitors would say it. Anyway, for those of you who just finished watching The Traitors, explosive season. Back to the story. At this hearing on May 13th,
God.
It's happening. Maura's possessing my body. I will be at this hearing on the 13th, which is this Friday, and I will be bringing you all another story about this really difficult situation next week for next week's paper. In the meantime, Miller is going to be she's in custody, like I said, and doctors from the Forensic Diagnostic Center of District 9 are conducting a post-verdict evaluation to determine the least restrictive conditions that would still, that would still protect the public. There's a lot more to this story. You can read the rest of it in the paper, and we also have the previous coverage, including when I went to the lake, and specifically the dock where a lot of this happened, on the website on farmanddairy.com. So you can check it out there as well. And I will be bringing you more about this next week. It is wow. Wow. This was a tough one. But anyway, okay.
Yeah.
So
honestly, good job, Paul, for sticking with the story. That is pretty tragic.
It was a tough one.
Complicated. It's not like, you could say this woman, it's hard to say someone who clearly, insane.
Right.
Or had an insane moment. It's hard to say,
Yes.
that she's like awful or something.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to, I think we all probably are looking forward to what you're going to bring us next.
Yeah. So stay tuned.
Yeah. Well, Paul, boy, I'm sorry, everyone. This is it for me. And then Paul's going to enlighten us with something more enjoyable. But I have to talk about this because I've been putting it off for a while. We are struggling. Yeah. Not, I guess, Paul and I directly, but kind of.
Yeah.
But in general, news is struggling. I can't emphasize this enough because that is the topic of my first ever commentary piece for the paper this week. Yeah. First ever. Yeah. Yes. So, the journalism is struggling is the topic. And, this, I guess, realization really hit me when the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette announced, which is a 200-year-old paper, announced it was closing.
Yeah, real talk.
Earlier this year. Yeah. And this paper for me specifically was just a very important paper to me. I'm a Pittsburgh native. Yeah. And some of my idols have worked at the paper. Nellie Bly, she's very famous. One of the first ever investigative female journalists and most influential ones. Yeah. She worked at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. This the publication announcing it was not going to be publishing anymore after 200 years in May. That definitely, hit me hard. But even more than that, I think it really hit me hard because it made me question, how long would I or other journalists be able to be in this industry? When we that's because, beyond the Post-Gazette, there are so many other papers closing right now. I mean, every single week, it feels like I'm not maybe every single week, but at least every month, I feel like I'm seeing more papers closing or papers laying off. Like, it is definitely a crisis.
Yeah.
And just to give you guys a figure, since 2005, the number of newspapers published in the United States dropped from 7,325 to 4,490.
That's staggering.
Huge. Yes, that's huge. So, as we know, journalism is crucial to the function of our society. I feel like I shouldn't have to, I don't need to tell you why, but I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah, please do.
If local media disappears, people will lose access to important information. And in turn, have less of a say in what their communities what happens to their communities. Without local papers, communities lack specialized coverage of things that directly impact them, including, city council updates, tax increases, new projects come or going, all these things which really impact everyone's day-to-day life. On top of that, you lose these human stories, maybe just as important, these stories that highlight local people in your communities and facilitate connections. These are also really important stories that only localized local newspapers can report on, right? Because the AP and New York Times, as much as they're also important news outlets, they're not going to write about the small town in blah, blah, blah in Ohio, or in Pennsylvania. And then we come to the question, why is journalism struggling? Well, for me, I really believe it's the advent of the internet is the main crux of this issue, Before the internet, people really, people paid for newspapers because that was the only way they were going to get news. You had to go to a local newsstand or you had to get a subscription because the internet didn't exist. You had nowhere else to go. But when the internet came online, newspapers really saw it. Obviously, they wanted to reach this bigger audience that this, internet could now reach. And it really prompted these organizations to put news on the internet for free with the assumption that the money would come later. Digital advertising would pull through or, it'd eventually be funded. But clearly this is not the case. Advertising is also kind of failing, which I dive into a little bit more in this story. And people now have the expectation of we don't need to pay for news. It just should be, it's just free. So basically, I kind of wrote this column frustrated with all the people in my life that were kind of complaining to me about paywalls in journalism. Because unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know how you say it, but we journalists, we cannot work for free. News isn't free, despite what you may want to believe. Like everybody else in life, newsrooms need to make money to survive. We need money to put food on our table and a roof over our head like everybody else. And if journalism isn't funded, we won't have it. I'm not saying, obviously, that, subscriptions are the only way to fund journalism. There's many outlets to fund journalism, which is briefly talked about in the story as well. But I guess the bottom line for me wanting to write this was just to kind of say, news isn't free. We have to support media somehow, or else it's not going to exist. And on top of that, I also thank, obviously, our subscribers at Farm and Dairy. This is obviously not yelling at people. This is more of just kind of like a, hey, by the way, news isn't free. But also, like, thank you, our Farm and Dairy readers, our listeners. We cannot do this work without your continued support of our paper. I'm sure I can speak for Paul on this, but we really do love our jobs.
Yeah.
Passion is why a lot of journalists are in this field. So thank you. Just think about it a little bit. Support your local newspapers beyond Farm and Dairy, other local papers that you maybe enjoy. Buy a newspaper or something, donate something, or even share just a story. It really does help. So
we also love hearing from you guys too.
Yeah, and comment, please. Hopefully, not too like awful things about mean things. Try not to comment those as much.
If you must,
I mean, if you must, if I get something wrong, sure, call me out on it. But we like to hear from you guys. So anyways,
here.
Yeah, that's the depressing news from me, Paul.
It's not depressing. I would say that it's definitely like urgent.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is so. How do you just with the Gazette, like, how do you talk about that, like, just shutting down after like such a history of like, just all that's crazy.
It is crazy. So, I'm sure when the news came out, it all hit us. You can't not. I'm sure even non-journalists. I don't know how you hear that news and don't just get a little bit concerned about journalism
or layoffs, like at the Washington Post or any number of just these stories about dwindling newsrooms and there are some glimmers of hope. Like I remember several years ago that like I think it was Detroit, and they hired a reporter to work technically for like the municipality, like the city, but like that person kind of had agency and like they weren't like just a mouthpiece for like the government in the city, and they were able to like operate and tell the news of the city, not even just like the government, but like what the news of the people of the city and like the things that are happening in Detroit, and like but they worked under a more secure like government umbrella. Like it was a very alternative model to I think like the new, I don't but it was interesting how like there's adaptation at work, and like there's people trying new models and people trying like some newspapers are just foregoing, which I think is also tragic, but foregoing with a print edition entirely and then moving all online, and like you have to think like, okay, is that the path forward, or like is that so anyway, there's lots of threads and conversations to be had around this topic. So I certainly think that your column is timely.
Yeah. I mean, you're definitely correct though. On like, I mean, I think that's what this kind of crisis, I guess, or urgent problem is causing is, news outlets to think a bit more creatively about how to stay afloat or to pursue different models for funding sources. That's kind of what it's taking. Like you said, a lot of papers are moving to an online format. There's this, a newspaper I mentioned in this story specifically that is actually doing that.
Oh, yeah.
So it just, the landscape is also changing to kind of, be able to survive in these conditions, which is certainly good. But we definitely need, as consumers of media, to think a bit more about how we can support media if we find it important, obviously. So.
Right.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess I'll like finish us off.
Yeah,
on the
send
pod
us off
today.
with some exciting
So excited,
tale, hopefully.
I will just tell you, the only reason why there was a lot of things that I could have picked for, because I only wrote my one little article this week. And there were a lot of things that I could have picked for the podcast, but to talk about, but from our paper, which is jam packed this week. But I picked this because it reminds me and shares the same name of a Lionel Del Rey song. So this shout out to Lana Del Rey. Ohio, Wild at Heart. The song is not called Ohio, Wild at Heart. But anyway, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, they have a movie, and it is called Ohio, Wild at Heart. If you didn't gather that from what I just told you. And it is a movie and educational experience. Okay. And it is now available for schools to play in classrooms. Now, you've heard it all before. I know that in addition to where, clearly, if you're watching or reading this or listening to the podcast or reading the paper, that you are a member of the intelligentsia and you are an informed member of your community, and that is wonderful and celebratory. But you know that if you spend a little bit of time online, I would wager that you would maybe perhaps run to a meme or two about Ohio being, how should I say, mediocre? Or something, a strange place, or something or another like that. So anyway, this past fall, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, along with some production company, I think, invited audiences to experience the state in a different way on giant screen theaters. Which is how it's written. I wouldn't have written that, but that's how that's written. Giant screen theaters. Anyway, this film will be provided for free and available online for streaming in classrooms, which is really cool. Let me tell you what's in it. So you've got, it's narrated by Archie Griffin, if that's a name that resonates with you. I don't know who that person is. Archie tells stories of conservation and explores Ohio's natural playground with the underlying message of when we take care of nature, nature takes care of us. Well, anybody can get behind that message. That's great. Students will be able to hear about conservation success stories, such as the reintroduction of bald eagles.
Wow, that was good, Paul.
Pretty good, right? And trumpeter swans in the Buckeye State. See behind the scenes work of ODNR naturalists and program leaders. Always fascinating. As well as the changing of the seasons in Ohio, which can be, of course, picturesque, although I feel like we have just lived in a gray, frozen tundra for the last 6 months. So the bit of sunshine that we had, at least today, where I got to actually, for the first time in I don't know how long, open the sunroof of my car.
Oh, my God. I saw the sun coming in, and then I've been stuck in this building all day.
Yeah, we've been inside all day. Yeah. Oh, it was tremendous.
But that little bit of sunshine, though, man, does it, like, spring you to life? Yeah. Almost like a flower.
Yeah.
Just like, oh,
yeah.
You know?
It really goes far.
Yeah, it really does.
So this film showcases Ohio's natural wonders with spectacular aerial cinematography of places like the astounding cliffs and waterfalls of Hocking Hills to the Great Lake Erie. So there's plenty to see. There is a trailer and is on YouTube, and you can watch the trailer to learn more about the movie and going also to the Ohio Wild at Heart website. And the film is also available for viewing at museum centers around the state, as well as select movie theaters. Learn more about participating movies and theaters at OhioNDR.com. And also, if you would like some more details, you can check out, I believe this was in the auction section of the paper, so you can go there to find more details.
Yeah, cool stuff. Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like a cool film.
Yeah.
You know?
I just thought, so nice.
Right. I mean, every state really has its unique, you know.
I saw a picture of a possum on Facebook, which is why I even mentioned like Ohio memes, and I was like, oh, and it was like I think the possum, someone had dressed it up in like a tutu, and they were just like playing with the possum, and the caption was, "I saved her from Ohio, which is a place that no one should ever be in." And I was like, oof.
Oof. Yeah, that hurts. Yeah, and Ohio does really get a bad rap. Like,
that's what I mean.
Unjustly so in some regards.
Yes.
Or just in regards, not some regards, but yeah, it does get a bad rap.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, every state has its unique. And
Absolutely.
Ohio definitely has a lot of beautiful sites to see. So hopefully all of y'all, yins, whatever, all of you guys, check that out. So you could maybe see what you're missing.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Well said.
See what you're missing. So, all right. Well, guys, that is our top stories for this week.
And you know the drill. To read the complete stories, visit farmanddairy.com or find your local newsstand or find your local gas station or find your local coffee shop, farm market.
Go to Janoski's.
Yes.
Shout out to them again.
Yep. I guess there's issues floating around in these places. So just grab one.
Yeah, grab one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah.
We will see you next week.
Bye-bye.